Hi, this is Andrew. Thanks for joining me. This is a video covering the basics of setting passwords on Cisco devices. So we're going to go through the console password, the enable password, and then a password for telnet access. We're not going to get into SSH. That's kind of more advanced. We'll cover that later on. But it's really easy to get confused on which password you're setting in which spot, and that's what we're going to cover here. So to start out, we have a switch and we have a PC, and I have already selected the console cable. I'm actually going to console in the way I would if I were using a real switch. So RS-232 serial port on the PC, console port on the switch. Now I'll open up the PC and I will go to desktop and go to the terminal and go ahead and connect. And now I am connected to the switch, and let's see, it is all booted up. Brand new switch, brand new in packet tracer, and I can actually run commands right now. So first thing I'm going to look at is the enable password. I can type enable and I am now in the switch, and you can see the pound sign. I am in privileged exec mode. Now, if I want to set a password, an enable password, I need to go into configure terminal, and now I can do enable. Now, there are two options here. I can either set the password, which is the privilege level password, or the secret password, and that is the encrypted privilege level password. It's almost like the description they have here should be different. This is assign the privilege level password and encrypted. So I'm going to start with the password, and I'll show you what that means. So if I do enable password, and just to keep track of which one is which, I'm going to do Cisco EN pass. That's the Cisco enable password. And that's done. Now, if I were to exit all the way out of enable mode, I'm back at the console. I can do enable, and now it's prompting me. I type Cisco EN pass, and I am logged into the switch. I type anything else, and it fails, and I don't get in. Now that seems pretty good. The one problem there is if I go into show run, I can actually see in plain text my enable password right here. It is Cisco EN pass. That is not best practice to have the password visible, even though the running configuration is not easy to get to if you don't have access to the device. We don't want that there. So the way to deal with that is I'm going to start by going back into configure mode, configure terminal, and I'm going to say no enable password. I just deleted it. This time I'm going to do enable secret, and I'm going to type the same password, Cisco EN pass. And before I go all the way out, I'm going to show you what it looks like. We'll do show run, and there is that same password I just typed, Cisco EN pass, except it is, they'll say encrypted, it's hashed, it is in a non-readable fashion, and it is pretty good encryption. It is not easily reversible. So if we want to just confirm that works, I can do exit one more time, go to the console, and I can type enable and Cisco EN pass. So from the user perspective, from logging into the switch, no difference. I type the password, it gets in. The only difference between those two is whether it is encrypted in the running configuration or not. So now that I'm in enable mode, I'm actually going to go after the password that would show up here. This is the console password. So what I want to do, go back to enable mode, Cisco EN pass, and I'm going to go back into configure terminal, and I'm going to do line con 0. This is the console connection. This is this blue wire that gets me into the system. I'm going to put a password on that. That means someone walks up to my switch, puts a blue cable in, they need to type a password to get into the switch. So what are my options in here? I can do all of these things. The one I'm concerned with is set a password. Now, there's no secret in here. There's only just a password. And I'm going to set this as Cisco Con Pass. That's the Cisco console password. Now, if I don't do anything else and I exit all the way out, it's not going to prompt me for the password. I need to do this command right here to enable password checking. I need to do login. So if I type login, now it will prompt me. So I can exit and exit and exit. I could have done an end and an exit. Now I am on the console and it's prompting me for a password. I type the wrong password, it'll just prompt me again. I can do that multiple times and it'll get me back here. Now I'm going to do the correct password. Cisco Con Pass. And now I'm at the switch. Now, this is where it gets, it can get confusing, especially if you're not using passwords you expect. You think, okay, the password is Cisco. But if your enable password is Cisco EN Pass, that's the one you need to use here. So I'm going to do enable mode. Let's try that again. Cisco EN Pass. And now I'm on the switch. And those are two of the most common passwords you'll see. The console password, the enable password. Now, I want to show you that console password. Remember we have the enable secret here. Now let's go down in the running configuration. Line con 0. Cisco Con Pass. Now the last one we have, line VTY. We don't have a password set there. We can do that. But in order to use that, we need a way of accessing the switch over the network. So first thing I'm going to do is put a wire on it. I go plug into my Ethernet port on my PC, plug into Fast Ethernet 1. Now I can go back to my configuration right here. And you can even see, hey, you plug something in here. So okay, the console message. So config T, and I'm going to do interface VLAN 1. That is, I'm going to do a switch virtual interface, and this is a fake IP address that can be accessed on the switch. There's no port that's associated with this. It's a fake interface, a virtual interface. So IP address 192.168. Let's do 1.5. And if I just remember, if I hit enter right now, it's going to say incomplete command. If I do a question mark, it's going to say you need your IP subnet mask. So 255.255.255.0, and now I have an IP address there. Now I'll do a no shutdown, and my virtual terminal, my switch virtual interface is enabled, is changed state to up. Now I'll go back to my PC, and actually I'm already on the PC. I need to switch to my IP configuration on this PC. Different ways on, obviously if this were a real computer, there's a different way of configuring the IP address, but here I just go to this IP configuration, I'll do 10, and it'll auto-populate. Now, if you're ever using this virtual configuration, be careful, because if I did a 172 address, it would try to auto-populate the subnet mask as 255.255.0.0, because that's the default for a 172 address, or a 10 address would be different. Always look at this and confirm that what it auto-populated is what you expected. If I had a router in the mix, I could do 192.168.1.1. There is no router, so it doesn't really matter. Now, in this, in Packet Tracer, it will automatically save that configuration. I just need to close it. Just for confirmation purposes, I'm going to ping the switch. So that is 192.168.1.5 I set it as. It's always good to have this stuff written down so you're not trying to remember it. I don't, so I'm trying to remember it. Now, when it pings, the first one's going to time out. Now it's responding. Now it's getting there. Now, I can close this, go back to my terminal. And I'm back at my terminal. I have my switch virtual interface configured. Now I need to configure the virtual terminals. Virtual terminals are broken up into 16 different lines. For legacy purposes, it's 0 through 4 and then 5 through 15. But if I want to configure them, I can just go into my switch. I will exit out of the VLAN interface configuration, and go line VTY. Now I'm going to do question marks and step through so you can see each piece. It's saying what is the first line number you want to configure. And I do a 0. Now I do a space and a question mark. I can either hit enter and it's only line 0 that I'm configuring, or I can do a full range of anything between 0 and up to 15. Almost always you want to do the full range, 0 to 15. Now I'm in there and I want to do let's look at what I can do. I can do a password. I can enable logging. The other things we can do, which we'll get into later, transport. What protocols are we going to use? So just, we'll get into it later, but if I do transport question marks, input a question mark, my options are SSH, Telnet, no protocols, or both of them. I'm going to do Telnet. So now I can set my password, and that is going to be Cisco Tel Pass. And just make sure login is set. And now I will exit out, and show running configuration. Now if I go down to my configuration there, I have, let's just do a few more lines. Transport input telnet, login, and I have Cisco Tel Pass. And let's see if it works. So I will close this. That is my terminal connection. I could even unplug this wire. What I'm going to do now is go into a Telnet SSH client. Protocol, I want to set to Telnet. I didn't configure SSH. So now I set the IP address. This is from the PC going to the switch. This is that 1.5 address. If I did everything right, I get a connection. It's prompting me for a password. This is Cisco Tel Pass. There's another password that I have in there. So now I can do enable. If I didn't set an enable password, it would give me an error right now. It wouldn't let me access enable mode or privileged exec mode from a remote connection without a password. So just keep that in mind when you're setting these passwords. There are certain situations you need to have a password in order to get there, and this is one of them. Even though it says SSH, it's actually using Telnet there. So if I were sniffing the wire, I would see all of these commands. I would see these passwords in plain text. Now, show run. One more thing I want to point out. So we have Cisco ConPass, Cisco Telpass, all in plain text. There's no default way to encrypt them. But I can obscure them a little bit. I can, if I repeat this command, it says no service password encryption. I can actually do a service password encryption command and hide them a little bit. They're going to be low quality hidden. They're going to be very easy to reverse. But it's something. It keeps someone from walking past, looking over your shoulder. This is the example Cisco gives, and seeing you in the running configuration and glancing and seeing this password. Okay, so that's better. So I will go into configure terminal, and if I do service, and if I don't remember, I can do the question mark, and I don't see anything there, but now I see service here. Modify use of a network-based service. I'll do service, question mark. One of the services that I'm allowed to use, these are the three, password encryption. So password encryption, and then I do a question mark, and the only thing left to do is hit enter. So I do that. Now let's look at the running config, and you will see show run. You'll see that they're obscured. So this is a big long one. It's using a different type of encryption. These are less long. These are actually reversible. You can just do a Google search for reverse Cisco password, anything like that. There will be multiple entries that come up. You can copy this and paste it in there, and it will tell you almost instantly that this is Cisco ConPass. And you do this as a Cisco TelPass. And it's not that they have a database saying these are common passwords. It just, this is reversible. But anyone walking past you would not look at this and be able to read what the password is. So that is service password encryption. And it is helpful. It's something Cisco will require you to do at times. They will also almost always, when they ask for an enable password, they're almost always referring to secret, enable secret. Always set enable secret. Don't do enable password. They're going to say set a password on enable mode or set a password on privilege exec mode. They almost always want you to do enable secret to do the encrypted privilege exec password. So these are the places. It's very easy to get confused. I've seen a lot of students run into problems where they set a password and they set it in one spot and they think they set it in another. These are the most common. You can also set an SSH username and password. We'll see that later on, as I said. But these are the most common passwords you're going to set. And this is the difference between a console password, virtual terminal password, and an enable password. Console password is for the blue wire. Virtual terminal is over the network wire, and you need to have a functioning network to communicate. And then the last one is the enable password, which is just elevating your access once you're connected to the switch. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.